I got into service September 29th, 1941. I enlisted, and I was 21.
When you enlisted?
Yeah, just turned 21. I was in the Army Air Corps. I went through basic at Jefferson Barracks in St. Louis, Missouri. Oh, I went in with two buddies, and they split. They told us we'd all be together. Well, that didn't last very long. They split us all up. Well, from basic training, we took aptitude tests, and they decided I was mechanical, so they sent me to an armament school in Denver, Colorado, Lowry Field, and went through armament school, and that had to do with any kind of ammunition, anything that had to do with guns, bombs, fuses, bomb sights, anything that had to do with explosives. That was my job. Well, at that time, jobs were more scarce than they are now, I think, and really didn't have a very good job, so the draft was coming up anyway, so I knew I was going to be drafted, and I didn't want to be drafted. I wanted to pick my branch of service, and I got to do it. So from there, after we got out of school, I got sent to Eglin Army Air Force Base. It's a proving ground down in Crestview, Florida. And we started training pursuit pilots on aerial gunnery. And I became a tow operator. Operated the targets out of the back of the plane, and we pulled them, and they fired on us. And we every night we'd have a class like 30, 40 guys, and we would pull all the guns off the planes and clean them, tag them so we know where they went, and then we'd come back the next day and do the process over again. But we trained a lot of classes, and on top of being able to fire the guns, you had to be able to know in your sights where your guns were hitting. So you had to, what we call bore sighting. So we jacked the plane up to the attitude that it would be flying at. And from that point, we could look down the bore with a mirror and hit a target maybe 200 yards away by firing one at a time until we get the guns synchronized. And on top of that, we had to rotate the prop. The machine guns fired behind the prop without hitting it. And that was quite of a trick, but shot a few props, but I never did. But anyway, I flew missions down there for like 3 years. I had 1,500 hours in the air at that time. And when we first went down there, the early part of the war, the guys the pilots that we were flying with didn't even have a commission. They had about the same ranks we did. They were staff sergeant pilots, and they come out of Canada. But later on, they commissioned them and give them second lieutenants. But when I was down in Florida, we had a crew that could come through. They turned out to be the Tuskegee Airmen. So the Red Tails that they made the movie. I was down there, and we trained every one of them guys that come through there. And they would come through like maybe, they'd start out with, they told me, a couple hundred guys. By the time they got to us, there'd be like 12, 15 guys, but they were all top-notch pilots, and they were all good, and they were probably some of the better classes we had. They were always eager, and they always wanted to know everything, and they all wanted to know how many hits they had on the target. We could paint the targets out. We run four planes shot on the target at a time, and they verified their hits by having different colored ammunition. We dipped the ammunition in yellow, blue, green, and red. So when it went, and we would shot through a gauze screen target with like cotton fuzz on it, so you could tell where what color went through the target, and they could beat up a target pretty good, and so them guys became the Red Tails that they made the movie from, and I knew General Davis, and when I met him first, he was a major, and he advanced up to be a general, and so that was quite an experience. After about 3 years of towing targets, and I got kind of thought that I ought to do something more, so I volunteered to go overseas. We loaded up and we ended up on Okinawa, and all that was there at that time was like a plowed field. They didn't have any buildings or nothing, but we had a runway, and we had the shops set up where we could work on the planes and all this stuff. My job was to bomb up B-29s and fuse them. You had to fuse the bombs. They didn't come in fused. You fused them. After you got them up, you put them on racks. And we figured out a way. We were supposed to run, I forget how many. We had 2 bomb bays in the B-29. Then they had a tunnel that you could go from one to the other. And we got rigged up a deal where we could put 144 one-pound bombs in one bomb bay. The other bomb bay, we had 2 600-gallon tanks of fuel to get us there and back. And but I went to gunnery school in Colorado, but I never did fly a mission. Time we got over there and got all set up, it was just about over, and they really didn't need us at that time, but we was there anyway for quite a while. They flew some missions, but nothing that I got involved in.